Hey, let's take a minute.
Oh, and I just made my hair look stupid. So this is all going to get edited. This week on the House of Static, from Manhattan, visionary singer, songwriter, and artistic soul, Ilandria. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the House of Static. This is, and we are on, I believe, episode 6?
Eight?
No.
8.
All right. It's somewhere between 6 and 8. So
pick one of those numbers, guys, and that's the number. Don't worry about it. It's either 6, 7, or 8.
So anyway, if you're new here or if you forgot from the last one, I am Bob Smith, also known as the Static Dive. I'm a musician and a writer, and my friend
Kilo. Yes,
here you go. My friend, co-host is Kilo House. Kilo, want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kilo House, and I go by Kilo House.
And Kilo is a badass EDM bass trap producer.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, right on. And our guest today is yet another badass, very cool musician, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, very interesting person who through my writing, through my blog, and I did some other writing for, I've gotten to know Landria pretty well, via email and that kind of thing. This is the first time we've ever spoken in person or on the phone or anything. So that's fun. But anyway, so I'll give Ilandria, what I'll do is I'll give the 30-second version of your history, and then then you can tell us more about yourself about that. So I know that Ilandria is originally from Ecuador, right? And as a child, moved to Miami and grew up mostly in Miami. Your adolescence was in Miami. Got into music there, and as a young adult, which obviously she still is, moved from Miami to New York City, where since then, over the last few years, has ingrained herself in the independent and art community, music community that is so thriving in that wonderful city. So you can tell me what I got wrong, Ilandria, and take it away. Tell us a little bit about where you come from and what, who you are.
That was perfect. So I was born in Ecuador. I primarily live in New York City now. I've been living here for the past 7 years. I grew up in Miami, which was essentially, I'd say, where I was raised. Everything kind of accumulated for me there. That's where I learned how to play the violin. That's where I performed, and that's where I kind of found my love for music. Not essentially like the actual, I'd say, culture of Miami, although it is a very interesting culture. There's a lot of Latin music. But I did feel that New York was a better place for me and for my art. So I went ahead and moved because I came for college here. But I just always, ever since I was little, I always told people, I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to move to New York when I get older. And people would be like, okay, and my mom would be like, yeah, right, you're not moving to New York. Because I moved when I was 17, and that was way against her wishes. But, I did so because thankfully I had a good opportunity here.
Right. Well, you were going to school up, right? You got to some sort of performing arts college.
Yeah. It was a jazz performing arts school, right. Around the area that I told you that I hung out around a lot. It was
in the village, and yeah.
So that's where I went to college, and that's where I feel like I completely found who I was. I met an old bandmate there, and we just started creating, and that's kind of where I found who I wanted to be musically. So that's essentially, my little synopsis.
Well, that's good. Wow, that's fantastic. And I can tell you, I'm reacting to some of the things you said. Like when you were talking about when you, I want to get a little bit more into growing up in Miami and because I know some of your backstory about your inspiration to get into art to begin with and music when you were a child, but before that, you mentioned you realized that New York was the place for you to match your personality and everything. And that is if anyone's heard your music, and they will, if they haven't yet, they will after this. that is what your music is. It is a very New York City sort of mix of some wonder, just like clear cultural references, but the end result is something like very unique, so it's a little pop, it's a little jazzy, it's Latin, but it's not Latin, it's really cool stuff. So I get it, is what I'm saying. That was probably the right move, I would say, going to New York.
It's like a big fat mixture of everything, It
is, yeah.
Miami, New York, and I'd say maybe you can add in LA, although I don't have any affiliation with LA. But I feel like those are the three major, cities that when a lot of people, younger people want to thrive in as artists.
You do have affiliation now because I'm from LA. So congratulations. Good job.
I had a feeling. I had a little bit of a feeling.
Well, say that.
Well, yeah, but to your point, Ilandria, Kilo is in LA now and has been for a few years. But my kids, as you said, kids around the world, as they're getting into music and getting into art, they gravitate toward these cultural, center. What call it hubs, right? A cultural hub, and LA is one of them. So Kilo came from Oklahoma.
Yes.
LA. How many years ago did you do that, Kilo? Was that
6 or 7?
7 years.
Between 6 and 7.
Right on. So just about as long as Ilandria's been in New York. So
yeah,
that must have been a big change, right?
It was a welcomed change because people here are very nice, and people there are not the same as people here. So
there you go. Well, and that's a really good point too. In these, it's not just for. And the funny thing is, I'm in a small town, upstate. I mean, I upstate New York, but I'm very fond of New York City and go there a lot. But I mean, like all of these sort of cultural hubs are not just like artistic, hotbeds, but they're also like. They tend to, in my opinion, lead the way in like sort of cultural, sociological evolution. You know what I mean? Like we become they're more tolerant places than some less populated areas. Just because that's the way the world goes. You meet a lot of people. You have to, accept the fact that there are a lot of people in the world.
Well, not only that, but when you're bored because you have nothing to do, you find stuff to do, and it's not always the right thing to do.
Right.
So.
That was a really big thing about moving to New York City, because when I was in Miami, there was barely, you have your very, very few cultural little, enrichment there. Like you have, they have like some concerts and some theaters, but here there's nothing, it's nothing like New York City. It's nothing like you have like a bunch of different shows to go to and you don't know which one. Over there, it's like, there's this one show on Wednesday. And we're all going to go to that show. It's very, I'd say it's much less poppin', as they say, it's much less alive and awake as, it's more nightlife over there. It's more clubbing and it's more partying. Right. Although there is the beauty to it. There is a lot of things about Miami that I absolutely adore. But New York City, there's just always something to do. Always. You'll never find yourself bored in the house.
That is for sure.
In the house, but
right.
Yeah, that is for sure. Yeah, Miami. I mean, Miami is gorgeous. South Beach is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. Most beautiful people and places and everything about South Beach. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's really, really a nice place.
It's fun. I went to high school there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, so our mascot was the wave.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Hilarious.
It was high tides for life.
It's a great place.
Yes, I agree with that. So let me ask you, what made you like start making music? Like around what age? We know from what Bob said, you started in Miami, most likely. Mm-hmm. But what made you start? What influenced you to start? And when was this?
So in general, I'd say making music like in the physical sense, where I was in like actually playing my first instrument. That was just out of luck. I actually have a little funny story about it. I was in class in 4th grade and they had an announcement about who wants to join the orchestra. And I just didn't like my class. I had no interest in joining the orchestra, but I just had like, And so I went, and it was actually very selective. There was like a huge line. So I guess everyone else had the same idea as me. And everyone was just like, why not? And it was a very, easy test. You had to clap and sing happy birthday. That was like the
rhythm and melody. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. I was so young, we didn't know anything about music yet. And so, and so I got selected, and I was like, okay. And then my director just put me on violin. And that was like kind of the beginning of me, I guess, learning the more I'd say like organized kind of a style of music, how to read music. I was more about your technique. It was, it was not like I just was at home learning how to play guitar. And, it was more, I'd say on the stricter side, you had to practice a certain amount, yada, yada. And that was actually good for me because I felt that I needed that back then because I was such a hyper crazy kid that I needed that kind of direction. So anyway, my other musical director, I had expressed interest in with him to do like something with the rock ensemble, and he had the same idea. And so he did like a kind of rock group and that was when I was in 6th grade. And I went ahead and performed there. And the big thing was the other rock ensemble in high school. That was like the big thing in Miami. Like I ever since I was little, I always wanted to join it. I was like, oh my God, I hope I get in. And I ended up auditioning at the end of getting in. And then that's when I started performing around the city. And that's when I realized that
you were playing violin still in all of this? Like in the rock ensemble, you were playing violin?
No. So in the rock ensemble, I was playing a little bit of guitar in middle school. And then when I got to high school, I auditioned with violin. I sang and played guitar, but it was mostly because, sometimes we needed like another guitarist because one of them would be out. It was very easy. It was like, I love rock and roll. You know what I mean? Like the easiest songs you can play on guitar and all that. And then when I got to high school, I performed vocally and that was it. And I also was in the orchestra, but but writing music, that started here in New York City when I was in college. That's when I remember when I wrote my first song. That's when I was like, and I used to tell people, I don't really consider myself a songwriter. I don't really see that. And people would be like, what? Like you should write your own songs. And I'd just be like, no, I think I'll just sing covers. I remember telling people that. And now I'm just like, wow, I can't believe I ever said that.
Yeah, right. No, and your stuff, your stuff is fantastic. It's yeah, go ahead, Kayla.
No. Oh,
okay. Well, I was just gonna I was kind of talk about that a little bit about your writing process, right? Because there's a lot of different kinds of like definitions of what a singer or songwriter would be, right? Somebody might, one person thinks of, Joni Mitchell, and other people, will think Jimi Hendrix or whatever. So, because your stuff to me, it's similar in vein and similar in kind of pop, alternative pop style, and have that sort of cerebral songwriting of like Peter Gabriel or Kate Bush and people like that from like the 80s they were kind of creating that sound, and that your stuff reminds me of that. So I don't wonder, how do you start that? Do you are you sitting down just like a regular folk singer with an acoustic guitar and writing a song, or do you have a groove on a bass and you just start building on it? What's your process there?
So every single song I've ever written has been written in a different way. So I like the first song I ever wrote was just me running home after being upset over some boy and then just like writing a song on guitar. That was the first song I ever wrote. And I was like, wow, I can write. And then that's when afterwards I started writing more. But the process of writing after that wasn't just me on a guitar. So when I was in college, I met my former songwriting partner, him and I used to create music together all the time. I would come up with, let's say, like a vocal melody, and he would, have something production based. And I would tell him like, hey, listen, like, for example, I have a song called Let Me Stay Awake, which is actually one of my favorite songs that I've ever written, because that song, I wrote it because I really, really wanted to write something about my mom and how she used to want me to go to sleep, and I didn't want to go to sleep because I would be on my laptop writing at night and just writing short stories or just a blog. It was just a blog. It wasn't really anything musical, but I love to write. And I felt like the night owl, in us as children, what is something that I feel not a lot of people talk about. I mean, people say, hey, I'm more nocturnal, I love getting my ideas at night. But when you're younger and your parents don't let you stay awake, it's kind of like you can't. So anyway, I remember that I just used to I used to have my laptop under the covers, and, she would come in and I just like pretend I was sleeping, and she would come and find it, So I had all these ideas, and I remember just writing them like, go to sleep. My mama said, quit that loudness in your head. Just go to bed instead. She didn't understand. My brain's a radio. Mama, don't you know? And then that's when it goes into the chorus, like, and then the chorus is like, Mama, let me stay awake. Let me stay awake. Let me stay awake.
That's a great line. She doesn't understand. My brain's a radio. That's
yeah. That's a great line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, that song, I had written it down. I didn't really have a melody to it. I just wrote it down, and my former songwriting partner, we got together, and he just had this, like, he played a few chords on the synth, had a few, like, he was like a very, he was like, a producer. He had like all of his gear and all that. And I remember I went in and just started like kind of freestyling on the mic in terms of just improvising, and then Let Me Stay Awake came to life. It was just like that. And it was all through improvisation. So that's mostly, I think my form of making music. It's all improv. I feel that, most of my songs have all been written in the moment. It's never, very few times I can say that I sat down and was like, okay, like slowly, and then have a guitar. Okay, like what's the chorus? What's this? What's that? Yeah. It's just on the feeling of the song. And sometimes I'll hear an instrumental, like a friend of mine, he's a DJ, and he had this instrumental track, and I just said, hey, listen, that was Little Eyes, actually. Right. I listened to the track, and I was like, oh my God. And I was going through something back then, and I was like, oh my God, I have to like sing something to this. So I went ahead and I did it on one take, not the actual Little Eyes, but just the demo. And then I was like, I have to write this. So that's when I went ahead and I produced. So I had it produced and all that. And so, it's all like a different experience. Each time I read a song, it's such a different scenario.
That's awesome. Kilo. Yeah, go ahead, Kilo, because that was good.
Well, real fast, can we just have her explain to our audience, like, how she came up with her name for her brand and stuff? Because we know the story about her and sleeping and stuff, or you told me the story, but we want our audience to be in on the joke and know what we're talking about right now.
Right.
So would you explain that to us?
I'm sorry, the sleeping joke? I'm sorry.
What Kilo's referring to is when when I was working in your bio, one of the things I liked about it was that when you started creating, basically because you would create these little worlds in your head. That's your term for that, would like creating worlds in your head, and then you did that with your music, basically.
Oh yeah, I guess that ties into the whole visual scenario of my of Ilandria. So when I first started Landria, I had this idea of having, like, Ilandria was another planet, and I wanted to be like I had this imagery in my head of like Ilandria being another planet, and everyone there is really, really like kind and amazing and incredible and creative. And here on Earth is just like this mundane, like square universe. And that was kind of for a while, I was kind of obsessed with that visual. So if you see a lot of my older videos, like my first music video was I Don't Belong Here. And that's
a great song, by the way.
It's a great video,
I love that song.
Thank you. That was actually, one of the most ambitious things I've ever done, especially being so broke in New York City. I somehow managed to pull that off. That was hard, but luckily
you probably hang out with a lot of film students, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was all Craigslist. It was all Craigslist.
That's awesome.
People would be like, what, I really like the song, so I'm gonna do it. And then I'd be like, hey, I can only pay you like 100. Is that okay? And they'd be like, okay, that's fine. And actually, the funny thing was, these two guys from Maryland came on bus and everything, and I was only gonna pay them $30, and I felt so bad. I was like, you didn't have to come from Maryland, but they just really wanted to be a part of the project. They just wanted the experience. So I was like, sure, come on over, and they were so,
cool.
Yeah.
Sorry. To hit on another point that you brought up earlier about your words were, I was going through something back then. Something me and Bob talk about a lot is that a lot of artists, such as myself and you, are very driven by pain. Like if you let yourself feel your emotions, even if they suck, you kind of are more inspired. And can you explain to us how you go about that? Like, do you do it right when you're going through the problem, or do you think about the problem and then do it? Like, explain to the people like how you channel pain into beautiful music.
Right. Well, the funny part is that I used to, on my blog, I used to write about that. I used to say, because I remember, I'd be crying and I'd be like, I don't want to write right now. Like in terms of like, actual writing, I'm like, what can I write? I'm like, I'm just so upset right now and I can't, and I actually find that my creativity comes from the after effects of the emotion. So it's never like I can't write while I cry, which is something, I can't, like in writing it.
Right.
But, I think it's called, what is it called? It's called, it just, when you just look into yourself and introspection.
Introspection.
Yeah, introspection. Yeah. It's in the introspection of it. And that's kind of where my music, I think, comes into play. A lot of my songs are just introspective mostly. I just like, okay, what did I feel? Why did I feel it? Or I make little stories. Like, for example, let's say that, someone cheated on me. I made a story about a girl named Diana who found her husband cheating on her and burned the house down. So it's kind of like,
That's a good way to deal with that.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
we all should deal with that circumstance. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. But live vicariously through your character.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not going to burn the guy's house down, but Diana might.
Exactly.
Well, what I hear you saying is like it doesn't necessarily come from the pure emotion, but you like conceptualizing the emotion, right?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. It's and every single emotion. When it depends on the emotion, obviously. Obviously when you're upset. Like I remember being upset over something that I was going through back then with my roommate. And that was a really big thing for me. And I remember one day with my former songwriting partner, we got into the studio and we just said, I was like, listen, like I need something. I did something on like an effect where I could make my voice sound like an electric guitar. It was like distorted. So I just started with this like melody. And then I just sang like the most angry thing I could. And I remember that very like it's the song is called Empathy, and it's just kind of like I listen to that song and I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel it at all anymore actually. But when I listen to it, I kind of go back to that emotion. And that's like the awesome thing about songwriting and music in general.
Right.
You can kind of, like take your little memory and like put it into a little a song, like a little auditory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's funny. Keela and I've talked about this before on previous episodes where exactly that. Right. And that's sort of a blessing and a curse though. Like
absolutely.
Yeah. Cause I've been writing songs for a long, long time. I'm 100 years old and I've been writing songs for like 30 years. So going back and listening to shit I wrote when I was 20 years old it could be very depressing. You know what I mean? I was an alcoholic and I was, not very good at relationships and I was a mess, Well, so you go back and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, you just put a whole hand. You know what I mean? Like, come on, kid, get up, It's just crazy.
That reminds me of what happened the other day. I've been mastering Bob's song, mixing mastering his song. And whenever I heard it, I said, bro, like, what were you going through when you wrote this song? I said, was that when you stopped drinking? And he was like, as a matter of fact, it was. Wow. And I was like, I can hear it in the music. Like,
and it's an instrumental.
And it didn't have fucking major key. Like, it's not supposed to sound. Somehow you pulled off making a major key song sound like you want to kill the world. So, but it's interesting because I, through his music, knew what he was going through, where he was at that point in his life.
Yeah. Right. So, which is crazy because it's a mellow, like down tempo instrumental piano piece. It's there are no words at all. The fact that he was like, did you write this? And it's like, I quit drinking 5 years ago. So where he would pull that out of, I don't know. He's like, you write this when you were drinking? I'm like, yeah, as a matter of fact. Oh, that's weird.
Do you think that has to do with my synesthesia, though, being able to visualize things through noise? Like the noise you put into the computer is what comes out in my face.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, well, I think that's a really good point, and I think that kind of that leads into a neat conversation, right? So because the whole synesthesia, folks don't know, that's right. That's when one sense kind of takes over for the other, right? So you hear a sound, when a sound plays, and your eyes might see something to correlate with that sound,
like colors and shapes and ideas and
and so
go marijuana.
Right, there you go. Kilo has that affliction or blessing, whether it's self-induced or genetic, and anyway, and so the point being that those things like that effect that sound and that relationship that sound has to visual, whether it is hallucinated or whether it is applied to the piece, right? Whether I wanted to kind of get into that because your stuff is so very visual,
right? Absolutely.
Musically, it's got a visual sound to it. It's very textured and layered. There's a lot of cool rhythms and sub rhythms going on, usually with some kind of, I don't know, kind of a smooth, kind of funky, not funky, but just a cool bass line, cool pop bass line. Anyway, it's layered is what I'm saying. And it sounds visual. And then your videos are very visual. Like there's lots
because it's a video.
Yeah, your videos are great. There's paint and there's colors and there's, designs and flowers and feathers and everything. So tell us about that. How does that, how do you manifest the visual?
Everybody go watch the fucking video right now.
Yeah, well, every one of them. I think you got about 4 or 5 videos that I've seen, and they're all.
I don't belong here.
Like yeah.
That video
Little Eyes is
get
a fantastic.
High and then watch that video.
Yeah, that's actually funny. A lot of people have told me, "Hey, I was tripping on shrooms and I was tripping on this, and I watched your music video, and I was like, oh my god,
that would freak me out.
That's fantastic. But I'm telling you, the other one, Strange Love, is another one that's visually crazy as hell, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So music to me, every single time I write a song, I have like a little movie in my head, always, and it's actually and as you mentioned before, like the whole blessing and a curse, it's actually is a blessing and a curse for me at this point in my career, because I just always want to make a music video. I have this weird I think I need to go to some like AA meeting or like music video like addiction meeting, because I'm just like I just, it's very hard for me not to see a song visual, and I don't feel the song is fully done unless a music video is made. Although, from just speaking about like the good part about it, every single music video I've made, I've always made it with my heart and soul. Like every single one, I collaborate with people that are like-minded and have great attitudes and positivity. And I've been lucky enough to just know people that believe in me. And so when they do things, when we make something together, they kind of, I can only afford so much. We just do what we can, whether it be, like them helping me make like a backdrop for Strange Love. One of my good friends, Andrea, who I met on Craigslist, was a makeup artist. Right. She went ahead and helped me with that whole backdrop, the whole like thing. And it was just like a very small living room. And, we did what we could. It was just like a team of 3 people.
That's crazy, this living room, because it does not look like that.
Yeah, it looks like a whole forest.
Yeah, it's crazy. And
what? That video was a fuking living room?
What? Crazy.
Oh man,
that's crazy. And so what it sounds like to me is that you were obviously very collaborative. You work with a lot of different artists for your videos and I think for your music as well. But it sounds like when you're working with your friend there and turning your living room into a forest, right? You've got a concept, but the details of like I said, there's always the visuals are so like specific and odd and awesome. You know what I mean? Like where you've got like triangles painted on your face and things like that. Were those your ideas, or do you just say, I want to look colorful and wacky, and your friend goes and paints triangles on your face?
So for I Don't Belong Here, specifically that music video was, so the song in general was like, I was coming to this earth from another earth, and I was like, I don't belong here, and I'm just like, where humans are wasted on you, I am from the land that understands that noses are odd. Because I feel like I have an odd nose. So I just put that in. Noses are odd. And, basically that song to me, we had this thing on set that day, like where it was the Greys, which were like the humans in the office, which is ironic because I kind of worked in the office, and then the Landrites, that's what they were called, were like the red people in the suits that were all like, cool. And that was kind of like the whole triangle versus square thing that I always have in my mind, where triangle is like conceptually supposed to be a really fun-loving, creative person that's doing what they love, versus somebody who's just doing things out of just routine, mundane life, and because let's say they just want to make money and they don't follow what they want to do or what they should be doing. And not saying that working in an office is like, that's like the worst thing in the world, but it's kind of just conceptually supposed to be like, hey, you do something that maybe you don't love, and you just keep doing it every single day, and you're miserable inside. And it's kind of like, or maybe you love it, but like most people that do it are miserable. They just do it because they don't,
I used to be one of those people.
I know. Yes, we have that problem.
There you go. But so those are the squares, the L7s, right? That's the old
yeah.
And then the triangles are the people that are living their actual lives.
Yeah.
Right?
And the scientist, like at the beginning, when I'm in the Orbeez, which was really fun. So the scientist is actually, he's like discovering this creature, which is like me, that I'm from another universe, and he doesn't really understand. And I'm trying to explain to him what it is to be like a person with a big heart, who's emotional and sensitive, and like, versus somebody who just like, takes everything, just like everything is just so organized. And, that's kind of like the whole concept of the video, explained through just colors. It's literally, if you watch it again, it's literally just like gray people and like colorful people. And it's like versus each other. That's all it is. And in the end, she escapes, and that's, and then he's like, where'd she go? And then that's the end.
Awesome. I did not expect that much detail from just a question about triangles on your face. That's fantastic. Well, go ahead, Kilo.
I mean, every music video is different, so. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that one is wonderful. I was also wanting to mention that I really like your aesthetic with like your artwork, like the font that you use, and like the neon colors and the retro vibe of it. Like I personally love that vibe myself, but also I think it fits your music very well. I think you nailed it, because what I have emphasized on our show before is this is a visual art, right? It's not music. It's not an ear art. It's visual. So it's like it's called multimedia. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. It's multimedia for a reason. So first you see like the visuals of stuff when you like buy the album, and then when you open it, you smell the new album smell, whatever, and then you hear the song for the first time, and then you go watch the video and it builds from there. And I think a lot of artists don't realize that, and so they don't have those things match up. So when I find an artist like you, where it's like, that goes with that, I'm like, cool, which I should have known that you have that visual thing that I have, because that makes sense. You would match things to other things because your brain works like that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
That's cool. What I was just thinking, Kilo, when you were talking, is that in both, actually, both of your cases, both Kilo and Ilandria, you both have very strong brands, and that are identified very directly with yourself, right? And what I was thinking about is that the notion of like creating a brand, building a brand, right? Which is nothing I've ever been great at, honestly. I'm kind of getting it in the last 5 years of my life, but I think that if you look at the way that folks like the two of you do it, you could do it, and with the whole process could be artistic. You know what I mean? It's not like it doesn't have to be a business decision. Like, how do I want to represent my brand? Blah blah blah. You just like say, I'm going to be conscious of the fact that people will be looking at what I create from all angles, visual and auditory, and the words I say and everything else. So I want to make sure that those are all representative of my real actual vision and message. So that's what building a brand is, and still being an authentic artist. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
you just make sure that everything you put out is real. That's right.
For sure. Yeah, and you said something really good about being authentic, because Nick, who's been on our program before, told me about someone that like wanted to make their brand based around marijuana, whatever, something, but they didn't use marijuana. And he was like, yeah, don't do that, because you won't be able to relate to the people that you're performing for. Like Bob just said, like you have to be authentic to yourself. And I think that you're almost right, but you're wrong in that sense, where you do have to make a business decision to go, I'm going to search within myself to make the most authentic brand, because you're not, like I've said before, you're never going to be the best copycat. You're only the best version of yourself.
Right. Yeah. So maybe a better way I should have said it is that it's a business decision, but it's still an artistic, and it's still an authentic. Oh, yeah. As long as you keep it authentic to yourself, then, business in itself is not an inherently bad thing. You can be a business and still be authentic, I guess. Maybe that's another way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the case, for a lot of different artists. A person that I actually took a lot of inspiration from before I started writing, before I started making music videos, was actually Melanie Martinez. I actually saw her music video Dollhouse, and that's kind of where I
love that song.
Yeah. That kind of opened up this world of like, wow. And she moved me and didn't even, it wasn't even anything that I could really relate to. I don't really have that thing, but the fact that it was just such a story. And I was like, wow, like I've never seen anything like this. And I just fell in love with it. Right. And that's when I was like, I want to make my own music videos and my conceptual art. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And so that's when I started. And she is a business on her own, her whole crybaby kind of concept is just, to me, I really like it, and it's it's like the whole pink, like kind of bubblegum, it's just great.
It's
another example of creating a different world, creating a visual and auditory world.
Oh, for sure. And I want to, for sure.
And it's for her too.
I forgot that was the first time.
There we go.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah,
this happens every episode. Everybody, don't worry.
It's not always
happens. No,
it's not always
one of us will forget something we're saying and then try to act unsuspiciously, which I did a horrible job today.
Cool, yeah.
But sometimes, just, all right, we're done.
That's
so
funny.
I'll remember maybe. Go ahead.
It's all good. Well, let's see. There was, as we go through these things, I always think, like somebody will say something.
Oh, wait, I remember. I remembered. Okay. So I think it's very interesting, and I want to point out what she had said, which is, even though she didn't feel the emotion of the song or something like that, she still could really enjoy the song. And I find that very good artists can make you feel. For instance, I love Olivia. What's her name? Olivia.
Rodrigo.
I love her, but I am not a teenage girl who just learned how to drive. Right? I am not driving up to my boyfriend's house and stuff like that. So it's like I don't know why, but I love her music because I feel all emotional. And then in that moment, I am a teenage girl. I'm going to tell you the truth. When I hear music that does that, it's like, I am now the teenage girl. Right. You are not, and I am. So it's like, I think it's cool when artists can make you go, wow, I don't know what that fucking feels like.
Right.
I've never been a teenage girl. But I can still enjoy it and feel that emotion.
Right. Anyway. And that's a good songwriter, right? I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I agree 100% with that. Every single song that I love, for example, like, I think Tennessee Whiskey, I remember every time I listen to that song, I'm just like, man, like, I used to drink a lot and, and now, somebody that's took it away from me, like now I fell in love and I'm just like, what? I don't even feel that way at all. Not anything, or songs that make you feel like you're in love or just anything like that. It's every single song. And that's what I strive to do as a songwriter, is I strive to emotionally bring people somewhere where they didn't feel before. It's just moving people, that's basically what I feel the best kind of music is, even if it moves you the wrong way, like
that's true.
I feel like anything that makes you uncomfortable and is like, whoa, like everything in my life that I've been like, damn, I hate that. Everything I've always like thought about it the next day. And I like look at it again and I'm like, why do I hate this so much? You know, and then I end up writing it, you know, and it's just like anything that moves you in any single way passionately, I feel is something that is just, it just makes you emotive, you know, it makes you feel something, even if it's not a good thing, you know, at least it moved you enough to feel that certain way about, and you learn something about yourself, you know?
Well, on that same topic, I heard you say something about drinking. Sorry, Bob. But I wanted to talk to our audience about, like, first off, whether you feel like you're inspired more from internal things or external things, but also what you think the relationship between substances and being an artist is. For instance, when Bob wrote songs about drinking, Bob wrote sad songs. When I wrote songs about drinking, I wrote turned up fucking club bangers because we were in different mind spaces, right? And so just tell us your whole thoughts on all of what I just said.
So in terms of, you know, you're saying like writing in every single, like the space you're saying, is that?
Sure, like, do you feel like your inspiration comes from an external or an internal source, first of all?
I mean, I guess the inspiration that I feel every single day can come, I mean, I would say external more so, you know, like in terms of just receiving like certain information from, let's say, TV or media in general, or, you know, let's say it's any single emotion. I mean, I don't know, would you consider like emotion internal and then everything external?
Well, you know what I was just thinking when you said that, right? I was like, if you think of it this way, like I would have, like, for instance, I would have assumed you were going to say your answer was going to be.
I was going to say the same thing,
because you're such a sort of introspective and like internalized sort of creative mind. But what you're saying, then that's the question is what's inspiration? Is it that initial thing that in the real world, right, or in the world around you anyway, that sparked a thought in your brain that went and then spun into your own creation? You know what I mean? Is the inspiration the catalyst, the thing that pushed you, or is the inspiration, you know, your own creative mind that then, you know,
right?
I don't know the answer. I'm just saying that's interesting. You know.
Well, let's think about it this way. There's two aspects to something. There's what happens to you and then how you react to what happens to you, right?
Right.
So if you're just writing based on what happened, right, that's external, right? And then if you're writing depending on how you end up dealing with this burning the house down, that would be an internal, because that is all you, bro. Like that's only you. Nobody knows why you burned the house down until you tell us, and you might be lying. So, yeah, I don't know. That's the kind of difference between the two, in my opinion.
Right. I agree. Yeah, and but there's definitely seems to be there's a blurred line where you go from one to the other. You know what I mean? Then depending where you ended up leaning, I suppose is what.
I think that the trick is to not even see the line anymore. Is to be able to pull from those places, because when I write my music, I don't realize that I'm writing it based off of a certain emotion that I've had happen, because I've kind of learned the technique of not just kind of blurring the line out. So it's like, I'll write a song and be like, damn, where'd that come from? And then I'll find out where it came from. So it came from the external source, but it also came from an internal source.
Right. Yeah, I think, you know, there's such I mean, it's like, I feel like one just feeds the other, you know. I, you know, for me in general, like every single creative notion that I've ever had has been from an external source coming inwards, and then have like my body, let's say, being jolted. And like when I create, like if I do like improvisation, that's truly when I can see how I'm feeling inside. You know, I feel like it kind of ties into our subconscious too, because sometimes like when I'm improvising, I do things that I've never done before. You know, and I say things like sometimes I sing rap in a way. You know, I'll say things and I'm just like, whoa, I didn't even know that I felt that way, but I guess I do. You know, and that's kind of like where the subconscious comes in. And like, I feel that it comes from experiences that happened before in general, and what moves me in the scenario before. But improv is, I feel, the most like strong and like real raw way.
I think you like, you explained it, something that we've talked about a bunch of times. You explained it better, I think, than I ever did. Right. Which is, because I write very similarly, like everything I do is improvised, and then I just kind of do a bunch of crap. And then when I go back and listen to it, I was like, oh, that part was nice. I like that. And then, I build on that. But I always tell Kilo, like, I don't have inspiration. There's nothing inspires me. I just do crap. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the way you described it is more accurate. Basically, it's that stuff that happened that made you cry when you're writing on your blog 2 weeks earlier. That got processed. And that's
right.
Now that's coming out of you somehow. So,
right.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of I feel like with everybody in general, improv, I think I truly believe is one of the best ways to find out what your heart has inside of it. Like, what do you feel like screaming? Do you feel like crying? Do you feel like doing something happy? Do you feel like being sad? I mean, if you know how to play your own instrument, it's kind of easier, or you can like be with somebody who you're just really in tune with and create with them. And even instrumentally, like I listen to instrumental tracks, and the fact that you can convey emotion. Like, I've always been just a word. It's so like, it's interesting to me when people make instrumental melodies or instrumental things that don't have any words and make that emote something.
Oh, that's what I do. I literally do that. I don't have any lyrics or anything, and I make music that you will literally know exactly what I want to say to you.
That's really true.
Immediately based off the first melody.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's incredible to me,
And it's funny too. It's something that that Kayla and I were talking about earlier, because it's something we're working on right now, right?
Uh-huh.
So we're working on an instrumental. A bunch of my instrumentals, and Kilo's and he's got this concept for them where we're going to be, we're going to try to do exactly what you're saying is try to convey a specific intended emotion through the course of the record without words, without any. So by altering by putting background sounds in and doing other things.
Well, cool. I feel like it comes a lot of that. A lot of the reason I can do that, and a lot of people do it, is because of something I learned about Skrillex, which is he puts a lot of sounds in the background that you don't actually know are there, but your soul or your body or whatever the fuck you want to call it feels it. And the thing is, like, you put things in, like, for instance, in one of the new songs I had put in like a little snare groove that you could barely hear. Like, you put things into instrumentals that are telling the story in the background, behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So we are telling you the story. You just don't realize it, right? It's like we're like black magicians, like we're just like kind of tricking your mind. And that's what Bob was talking about. We're going to do a whole day in somebody's life where it's like a coffee shop, and then like the road noise, and then the subway noise, and kind of take you on the journey that you may never know unless you're watching this interview right now. Like that's in there, because I'm not going to make it loud enough that you auditorily can actually tell it's there, yet your mind knows it's there. And I think that's the strongest way to do what I do, is just manipulating someone's brain.
Yeah.
There you go.
Don't worry, nothing bad will happen.
I mean, that's the true thing. I feel that's what kind of, the producers in general, I mean, I feel that that's their job in a sense, they're, chords with chord minor and major, like it just, those little things are dissonant, like melodies or things that make you uncomfortable, like people don't understand why they feel that, like why they feel why, like, whoa, I feel like, like mad right now, or I feel after I listen to the song, I feel like raging, like it's like, that's why, because they're on purpose.
Right. And I think you did point out two good things. One of them I completely do, and one of them I 0% do. Right. So my melodies are very dissonant, right? They're like just like a half step, like it'll be like a few steps and then a half step. So it's a very dissonant melody. And I've never written a chord in one of my songs. I have 0% of chords. I mean, I outline the chord with my bass melody relationship. Right. So it's there in theory, but I don't know how I've pulled it off so far.
Chord, right.
I don't know how I've gotten lucky so far, but, like I've been able to somehow give you an emotion, which I think maybe it goes back to the other thing you're saying, which is my melodies are so strong that it's like, you can't miss what the melody is telling you because it's in your face, fuck your face.
Right.
So that's cool.
That
Yeah.
is cool, man.
That is
All right,
awesome.
so we're getting on the hour, so we want to make sure we get some things in before we wrap things up. And one, of
Absolutely.
course, we want to know what's next for
Yeah.
Ilandria.
So this is an exciting question. Actually, back to the music video thing. So I actually made a promise to myself that I wouldn't, and this is unfortunate, but I'm not going to release another music video until someone else pays for it. That's like one of my things, because it's been really, I've been able to release, but every single song has a music video. It just gets expensive. So basically what I'm going to do in the next year, in 2022, is just release music in general. I'm working on 10 songs right now with a friend of mine, and he's producing them, and I'm writing them. I mean, I have some of them are already written, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to probably release like every 2 or 3 months, go around that instead of releasing an album. And I'm just very excited because I'm excited to perform again. I'm excited. I haven't performed in.
Oh no.
Oh no, we lost you.
Oh no, our table, it's broken.
All right. So, hey, how's it going, Kila?
Myself.
What's up, man?
Oh, there you are. We lost you, Landria.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, you froze up for a minute. Yeah,
I actually just got like a message saying your internet connection is unstable. That was the last
we agree that it is unstable.
Yeah, we agree. It was unstable. You were really just getting started, I think.
What was the last thing?
Yeah, we want to hear all of that.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Well, we could edit. So often. What was it? We know you don't want anybody. You're not going to pay for any more videos.
Okay. That was the last.
And then, so now you and a friend have started writing songs together. And
he's producing them, and I'm writing them.
Right.
And technically, most of them are already written. So what I'm doing is I'm just basically making them like real finished songs. Right. And I'm releasing 2 songs in the next, in January. I'm releasing 1 song, and then I'm releasing another song after that, and then after that it's going to be like the 10 song bundle. That's what's going to come out maybe every 2 months after that. Very cool. So I have it all planned out. It's all kind of different stuff. Like the song I have just this my dream, actually, my goal in life is to bring the 40s, the music from the 40s, into the mainstream media and make it fuse it with pop. That's let's say, if Dinosaur
and things like that,
Dinosaur was in the Bee Gees, and you kind of dancing Rafael Cara, or kind of those kind of old school I
love it,
vibes, but with dinosaurs da 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 da, kind of that, sing-songy thing. I love that, but I also like to go lower. But anyway, that's kind of my dream there. I want to make big band music, but in a more mainstream, not not mainstream, more pop way, just fuse that so that it can come into the fruition of what is going on right now. Fuse it with modern day drums, modern day things, and just have that come together. So
that's cool.
I'm really excited for that, and I take a lot of inspiration from Caterina Valente. She's that's someone that I think has kind of made my path so much easier, because when I look at her, I just see somebody that I want to kind of be like.
I've noticed you've mentioned her on social media before.
Yeah.
And maybe even though maybe give a 30-second explain who.
Oh, so she Caterina Valente.
I don't know who she is.
Yeah.
She's this artist she was famous in the 50s. She's actually still alive, which is beautiful. And she was actually, you guys might know her from the bongo cha. Yes. She sings that. So that kind of style is actually what I'm talking about when I mentioned this cute little melodies. She has a lot of those, but a lot of her old music, she speaks all these different languages. She even has songs in Spanish, and all of the music that she's made, she's Italian, and she speaks she's also a tap dancer, and she's also a guitarist, and she was her mother was a musical clown, so she's kind of has this presence on stage that's kind of funny. Yeah, so it's really, I really love her because I just love her voice and what she represents, which is just being an instrumentalist, but also being a theatrical person. And she has all these theater kind of like this theater kind of presence that I also want to entail, because I feel I'm very theatrical in my way, in my demeanor, and also in my music. So yeah, that's kind of who I want to I kind of latch her on to myself and say that she's kind of like my biggest inspiration, because that's
right
what I want to bring out there. So yeah, what's next is basically a lot of music that has those elements and has a lot of just different elements of myself as well. But I'm very excited to release all that. So
we're very excited.
I know that was an exciting answer.
Well,
really.
Yeah. So, this comes to the part of the show where we like to ask our guests if they have anything else they would like to say. Anything at all. Anything.
Let's see. Anything I'd like to say.
Anything.
Wow, that's like
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
How about no? You
don't have to. You can say no.
I feel like I've talked so much. I feel like
I know.
You know what? Actually, this is random. Actually, if I want to say anything, but I didn't mention her, and I love her. Laurie Anderson. You guys, the multimedia, like kind of. The way she tells stories, like I have a TC Helicon. I know that you previously asked me about my gear, and I like to make myself sound like a man, and that kind of gives me a different perspective, and that's what I.
That's cool.
That's cool. And you just dropped Laurie Anderson, which is freaking fantastic, by the way.
Right.
Lou Reed's wife, when he passed away, was Laurie Anderson. Laurie Anderson is a cool person. Is a cool person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
He's awesome.
All right. Well, now the actual ending, everybody, that everybody's probably been waiting for, or fast forwarded to. So before you skip what I'm saying now, I'm going to say watch the rest of the episode. We have some pretty cool artists in here. We had Nick, who works with artists. We have Malachi, who taught me to be a good mastering and mixing engineer, et cetera, et cetera. Go watch the old episodes. Stay tuned for the new episode. Now, to the fun part, why everybody tunes in. It's us asking one random question. Each of us asks one random question, and everybody has to answer it, including ourselves, so that we don't ask something that we're not willing to answer. One of me or Bob will ask a question about your industry that you're in, which you're in the music industry, and then the other person will ask something like, what's your favorite color of socks to wear, or something that's completely
now I have to come up with another question.
I got it.
Oh, damn it.
I'm kidding.
Okay. And you have to come up with a question. I'm sorry, Joel, that we forgot your question, I think. But you get to ask one this time. So we'll have to answer anything, and you'll have to answer it. So go ahead, Bob.
Okay. So, all right. I think I asked just a random question this time. You're the industry question this time, right?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
That's
so you think about that. So, Ilandria, what is the dumbest thing you've done today?
The dumbest thing.
Oh, no.
Wow. Let's see.
You're not allowed to say this show either. That's not good.
God damn it. Stop stealing my answers.
Let's see. So, I think the dumbest thing I did today was, I know, this is actually pretty random. I mean, this is a good thing for a random answer for a random question. But so my cat, she pooped on the carpet last night, and she never does that ever. In a while, she hasn't done that. And I cleaned it. And then I get a call, that apparently I forgot a spot, and it got smudged. And so, so that's kind of I guess it was pretty dumb. I didn't clean it because I didn't see it. I was really, cleaning the thing, and it was all clean. And then I guess maybe there was somewhere else that she pooped on. And yes.
Well, shit happens, as they say, right?
Literally shit did happen in the wrong spot. So mine is me doing stupid things. So mine is worse. I have an electric toothbrush, and it has a water pick in it. So I put this pan on my lap, and I brush my teeth, and it's all awesome. Except today, I forgot that I had folded my shirt that I was going to wear, not this shirt. I folded a shirt and put it on my lap, and then I proceeded to do the brushing of the teeth with the spray and the stuff. And it doesn't always go end very well. So I'm like, yeah, good, awesome. And then I get ready to put my shirt on, and it's just smeared with toothpaste, just all over it. There's my dumb thing. There we go. Awesome.
That's a pretty good one.
All right. Oh, me.
It was definitely dumb.
Yeah, I have to answer this as well, right? I forgot about that. This is I literally everything I do is stupid. I mean, I'm just like I just walk around and smash into walls and stub my toe and all day long. That's all I do. The dumbest thing today was something I do almost every day. Also, start making coffee in the coffee maker without putting the K-cup in. So either the old K-cup from the last time I had coffee is in there or nothing's in there at all. And either way, it's disgusting brown water that I get in the cup. And so I did that as I do most days. So there you go.
Very cool.
All right,
That
keep
is
up.
fun.
You got your question?
Okay. Sure. If you only get to say one sound that when you like that's out there in a song right now that you've heard, obviously, that when you heard it, you were like super inspired by that specific sound, not the whole melody or the song or the melody at all, just like a certain sound in a song where you go, I want to write a new song right now.
This is like songs that are out now, or any
Yeah.
What does it have to be new, or could it be like an old song?
Okay.
It can be literally like a caveman banging on a wall if that's your answer.
Oh, okay.
That
I mean, what comes to mind? The first thing that comes to mind right now is actually the I think it's by J Balvin, that song, or I forgot who it's by, but the song that's like
Oh, okay. I think I know it.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
It's like it's a Spanish, it's a Latin song. It's like kind of like techno with like Latin, and it's
Right.
Yeah, it's just a really popular song right now. But that little sound, like that, I was
So
like,
what about that sound?
I have to do a song with a.
You got to do something with that sound.
Right.
That's awesome.
So is it the way the sound makes you feel, or the way the sound sounds, or like what is it about that sound that made you go, I fucking want that sound?
Well, when I went to Ecuador, it was like nonstop. But then I was like, why is this song nonstop over there? Because it was
Right.
I was at Montañita, and it's like a super party town, and that song just kept playing, and I was like, oh my gosh! And that little thing, the little like wee 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 wee, it was just, it's so cute. I don't know. It's such a, for me, like that little, I like little sounds like that, like very awkward, like little. That's why I really like that song that was on TikTok. The Savage Love, I think, by Jason Derulo. Like those little like weird like synthy, like I don't even know if it's synthy. I don't know what it is. Like a little thing. It's so cute. I don't know. I love that. That kind of like sings to me in a way. It just makes me like want to dance. And that melody is just like, it's the same thing. It's the same melody as the chorus. But he made it into a little.
Dope.
That's cool. Well, in sound, you associate sounds with memories too. So you said you heard that constantly in Ecuador. You probably have good memories of Ecuador. So
Yeah.
We've never talked about that actually. That is so true.
Right.
So true.
Yeah.
Right.
What about you, Bobby?
Oh, me. Oh, a sound. Well, this is probably the easy one too. So the funny thing is, like, one of my favorite sounds in a song, right, ever, is not a good sound. It's not a well recorded sound, but I just I'm a big John Lennon fan. I mean, like just love John Lennon. And the beginning, the opening chords of Imagine are really a crappy recording.
Right.
It's a it's a resonant, like echoey boom, terrible piano sound, and I love it. And every time I hear it, my mind goes in a wonderful place where everyone loves everyone and no one kills anybody, and it's just wonderful, because that's what that song is. I mean, this song is, better than religion. So that's what that piano song.
That's a great song. Did you know, I learned the other day that song is actually his capitalist agenda?
Oh yeah, we're communist. It is very communist. There's no question about it. It's more like socialism. But I mean, hey, rock on.
Sure.
I'm
not
a
saying
politician.
there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that's something cool I learned the other day.
Yeah. But
All right, now that I have to answer my question with an answer that I don't know exactly the name of the artist, but his name, I'm going to say first off, I think his name is I Am Jake Hill, but it's either Jake Hill or Jake Hall. So there's a song on TikTok right now called I Am Jake Hill, and I can't explain what the first melody sound does to me, but I haven't been able to recreate it yet. It sounds like a saw wave that's like has a bunch of little teeny delays out into other frequencies. And something about the uncomfortable nature, which is funny that it's uncomfortable, and yet I like it. The uncomfortable nature of that sound being like that, where you're like, you're almost right, buddy. You gave it a good try. Like you're talking to the sound like, I know you're trying. A for effort, bro. Like it just gets me every time, like gets me pumped up. It makes me laugh a little bit inside. Like I just love it. I've tried to recreate it as we speak. I've been trying to recreate that sound because I'm like, I want to use this in every song because it's dope. So that's my answer. Now it's your turn to ask us a question.
And by the way, I am Jake Hill. I looked it up when you were when you were talking. So
listen to that song. Awesome.
Is this a random question or is this an industry
question? Any questions?
You're the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess what was what kind of music did maybe your parents introduce you to, or maybe your grandparents, or someone that really was resonant in your musical careers now?
Nice. I like that.
Very good answer. Question. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, I'll go first.
Very great answer.
You asked the question. I answered.
This is so my parents are both big music fans, and my mother was from Ireland, and my dad was from New York, from the city, and he was kind of a hippie, and my mom's still around. I shouldn't talk about my mother in the past tense. She's very much alive, but she was born in Ireland. So anyway, I grew up listening sort of like to Janis Joplin, Willie Nelson, and the Chieftains. You know what I mean? Like this kind of Irish folk music and this like kind of hippie country rock stuff was going on all the time in our house. And there's probably plenty of both in some of what I do. So there you go.
That's a great question, because if she doesn't die before we get along to it, we're going to be interviewing my grandma on here because she's the musical influence of the family. She's like where I get my musical.
Oh, that's great.
Whatever. And we want to hear like from her point of view what she thinks of music today and like how that all goes. So that's cool that you brought that up, right? So I'll say that.
That's really cool. Really cool.
Right. It'll be great. Yeah. It'll be fun. She's a really, really very interesting lady. So my answer will shock most people who know me in real life because they know how much I hate country music. Here's the deal. The very first artist I was ever introduced to, and I literally wore the fucking record out because we didn't have CDs back then as a record, and I wore it out, is Roger Miller. Roger Miller is the guy who did like the music for what's Robin Hood? Robin Hood, the Disney Robin Hood. He's the fox. No, he's the rooster.
He's King of the Road. Roger Miller, King of the Road.
Right.
I ain't got no cigarettes,
Right. And I think that it brings up a really interesting point. If you know me or my music, you know how much of a fucking idiot I am. On purpose and on mistake sometimes. But I feel like what we listen to at that young of an age molds us, especially as an artist, into the artist we are, where why I can listen to him and no other country artist except for a few is like, he does not take life seriously at all. You can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. Who the fuck would try to do that? I'm not going to try to do that. No one's going to try to do that. Thank you, bro, for the random piece of advice that no one needs, because if you're going to try to do that, you may as well die now because it's going to happen.
That's funny.
So, yeah, that's my answer. And I love that because it's like, I do not make that kind of music, but I do at the same time. That emotion of let's do stupid shit and have some fun is right there with that. So yeah, that's my answer. That's a great question.
That's a great answer. Right on.
Wow.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
We gotta get her answer, bro. Don't
yeah, that's right. Landria, what is it? You have to answer your own question.
So I kind of grew up with both. So my dad, he actually wanted to be, his thing was he wanted to be a rock star or a pilot, and he ended up being a pilot. But he was really into like the Beatles, and he was much older than my mom, so he was like kind of more old school than her. My mom was more so, she would always listen to very old school Latin music, or Latin pop. I kind of grew up with that. That was always like in my ears, or salsa, like everything just, Latin was in my life. I literally, and this is so sad, but I did not know who the Beatles were. Because my dad wouldn't like talk to me about it. He was just afterwards when I started discovering it, I'd be like, hey, like, do you know this song? And he was like, I love that song. And I was like, oh yeah, great. But I didn't really know who the Beatles were until I like went to high school, because my parents were so traditionally Ecuadorian that they never really tapped into, well, not my parents, my mom, and I grew up with her, was so traditionally Ecuadorian that she just never mentioned anything related to like the Jackson 5 or like, like Earth, Wind and Fire, like, I was like, who are these people? The Beatles. Right. Like, I was like, I don't like that name. I was like, I don't like it. Like, the cockroaches, I just think about like bugs and then people were like, what do you mean? Have you even listened to them? And I'm like, no, so that's when I started kind of like listening and yeah. So, I mean, basically like my parents just brought a lot of, my mom primarily and my family in Ecuador, they were always listening to old school Latin music. It was just that in my in my brain.
Well, cool.
That's very cool. Well, everybody, this is the end of this episode that we have determined is between 6 and 8. So wherever you are right now, that's where it is. We thank you for being with us today. We thank Ilandria, our artist, for being with us today.
Thank you.
I would love to have you guys follow her first off. Obviously, if you don't follow anybody else, follow the artist first and foremost. And then if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, we do these all the time. Give us suggestions of artists you might want to hear us interview. And also, if you leave a comment below of a random question you might want to hear some artists talk about someday, we might pick your question. So there we go.
So, and all of the associated links for Landria, for Kilo, for myself, and for the show will all be displayed below the video here. But if you're listening on audio, then go to ilandriamusic.com. And
that's the important one. So do that one.
Go to ilandriamusic.com and you'll get all of the cool stuff we've talked about today. So there you go.
Thank you guys for being with us today. Bye.
You guys are the best.
Thank you very much. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, let's take a minute.